So that's actually going to be my next question. Like, how is cataracts treated? Is surgery pretty much the only option,
Yeah,
or is there other things that can be done?
there's not. It's surgery. You might see some homeopathic eye drops in your pharmacy labeled as for cataracts, or certain changes in your diet might help antioxidants. But the damage that is done in a cataract is somewhat irreversible. Right then, you can talk about healthy living and eating right to prevent cataracts from getting worse in the future. But once you have one, the only treatment that we know now is to take it out. There's different types of surgery to take it out, and then there's different types of implants that you do to put it in. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. If someone has a cataract surgery, then we start talking about, if someone has a cataract, we start talking about cataract surgery and their options. What typically happens on, say your doctor tells you you need to have cataract surgery. You'll come in to the clinic and be measured. They'll dilate your pupils. They'll check your vision, they'll check your refraction, your glasses prescription. They'll dilate your pupils. They'll look for any conditions that might mean you should not have cataract surgery. There's a myriad number of them. But say you're cleared for all of that. You'll be given a date to come to the operating room for your surgery. You'll typically need a driver that day because you'll be given sedatives, etc. And you're not comfortable or not legal to drive. You'll undergo the procedure. The procedure is not that long. It's usually less than half an hour. They'll patch you up. They'll send you into the recovery room. They'll put a patch on your eye, and then they'll send you home. You come back the next day. They take the patch off. Examine the eye, check for any signs of complications, which are thankfully very rare after cataract surgery. And then we'll give you some drops to take, typically an antibiotic and some anti-inflammation drops. Every cataract surgery is a little bit different, though, so sometimes you will get some of those drops and sometimes you won't. Then you'll typically come back that first day post-op, and then sometimes 1 week later and 1 month later. Again, sometimes those numbers vary, depending on the surgery and depending on the surgeon. After that surgery, your glasses prescription completely changes. Because if you think about it, a lot of your prescription is based on the lens inside your eye. They've gone through that cataract surgery. They go in, take the lens out of your eye, and put a plastic lens inside.
It's plastic?
Yeah, it's plastic. A funny story about that is when you're in med school and optometry school, you're doing dissection in eyes. And I was dissecting a cow's eye, and the professor said, okay, now you'll go here and you should find the crystalline lens behind the iris. And I'm looking behind the iris and I'm not seeing anything. But I see this weird man-made looking thing. And I'm looking, I'm not finding it. And I sheepishly raise my hand and say, I can't find the lens. And he comes over to my eye and I show him what I found. And he's like, oh, that's a cataract implant. The cataract surgeons must have gotten to your cow's eye before we did, and they practiced on it and did cataract surgery on it. But yeah, they take out your crystalline lens, which is about the size of an aspirin. They remove that and they put in a plastic lens, and it lasts for 1,000 years.
So why not just do that from the get-go?
It's a good question. Why not just do it when we're 18 or 21, something like that? A couple of reasons. One, even though cataract surgery is a very safe surgery, any surgery has its risks, right? And you wouldn't ever want to have someone undergo a surgery that they don't really necessarily need for half a century from now. And the second reason is that a lot of times that crystalline lens, just like a camera, can focus and change, right? Like what if this camera that's on me, suddenly you put something right in front of it 2 inches from there, that camera focus, the lens inside the camera would focus and change, and it would literally shift, right? And your crystalline lens can do that too. It's not just a static lens. There's muscles and fibers inside the eye that are moving that lens and making it focus in and out. And when we take that crystalline lens out of the eye and put a plastic one in, it doesn't do that. It doesn't have that movability.
Oh, it just has basically a fixed
fixed
range.
Focal length that you might know from those lenses there. So if you did that to an 18-year-old, they would have some difficulty reading up close because you're correcting someone's distance vision, but then you're taking away their ability to bring that focus in on something close. The eye is relaxed when we're looking at the distance, and when we're trying to bring our focus up close to us, it's almost flexing a certain muscle and bringing that lens into focus up close. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves for some of the focusing issues, and you mentioned the fixed focal length. Like I said, everything will have a caveat that we talk about because there's always different ways to do it. And there are now implants that we do in cataract surgery that have more than one fixed focal length, bifocal implants, if you will, or what we call multifocal implants. And there's different ways to do it, but it's not like your typical bifocal that you think of in a glasses where the top is for regular vision and the bottom part is for reading. But typically the brands that people use work by concentric rings. And so, it's almost like a bunch of bullseyes or a bunch of donuts, where the middle of the lens that we implant in someone's eye will be their general or distance prescription. And then it'll be a really small ring around that for the reading prescription. And then a larger ring around that for their distance, and a larger ring around that for the reading, ad infinitum. And it might sound crazy, but it works. It surprisingly works. I'm actually wearing contacts right now to admit to the audience that I need to wear bifocal contacts that work in that same technology. We should talk about it for you maybe, Paul. But that's cataract implants in a nutshell. There's probably always more to talk about. There's different brands and there's different types. But I think that, to circle back around to the point that we made earlier, I think having surgery on your eyes is something that's very scary. And a lot of times it's not like it's a heart attack. It's your vision slowly changes in cataracts. And a lot of times I have to talk people into getting the surgery or to convince them that they have a problem. Because I see their vision when I saw them 10 years ago was 20/20. And then a couple years later, it was 20/25, or one line worse than that. And then it got one line worse than that. But it's still not that bad. And doc, I can still do a lot of what I always did. Or, yeah, that glare thing bothers me, but it's not the end of the world. And they're always coming up with reasons to not do the surgery. And I think that's completely valid. I think it's a very scary thing to have any kind of surgery, especially on your eyes. But I'll tell you that once that person does get the cataract surgery done, they come back to my office and they say, what's the quickest time I can get the other eye done? Because it changes like that, right? You don't lose your vision overnight. If you lost your vision overnight, you would think that your vision is dramatically bad. But it goes so slowly. And then when it gets fixed overnight, or over a period of 20 minutes, the difference between one eye versus the other eye, the operated eye and the non-operated eye, is so dramatic that patients are chomping at the bit to get the other eye done.
Hey folks, connecting with your benefits is our primary mission, and the SITREP is providing more options than ever.
Subscribe to our free email newsletter, subscribe to our audio podcast channel, or subscribe to our content on YouTube.
For details and links, check out the description below.